It is essentially a fancy computer, but it's pretty straightforward. One of the things that's nice, we have a very nice light board, a pretty modern system. There are, again, several sides to it. The side that you're going to be concerned with is over here. You're never really going to need to mess. This is all used for programming the lights in terms of shows and different events. We don't need to worry about that. The first slider, I have everything labeled pretty well. I'll relabel it because it's kind of faded, but this one is the house lights. So this turns the house lights on and off. We do have a work order in to get these new light bulbs. Unfortunately, this theater is so old that I don't know if they make them anymore. So we've got 2. We're down to 2. But that's why I've got the shades open so that people are coming.
But are these, it's these and then are there lights underneath?
Yeah, there are lights underneath.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got plenty of light, but the overhead light's pretty diminished.
Okay.
So this is your house lights. So if you want to turn on the house.
Is this just on? This just stays on?
This stays on while we're here during the day. It does have an off, so if it's off, it's got a light switch. It's got a switch in the back. Right, where is it? Right here is a power switch. But most of the time for an event that you're going to be doing, the janitors are the ones that turn it off at the end of the night because they turn it off. Yeah, they don't. Otherwise, they have to have light in order to go through and do what they're doing. They're usually the last people here. If I'm the last person here, I turn it off. But most, like, I would say, again, 95% of the time, this thing's going to be on. If for some reason it's not, there's a switch on the back. You just turn it on and it'll power up. So you've got your house lights, okay? Occasionally, this button will be on, what's called the blackout button. The blackout button basically turns all the power off on anything that's on. So let's say I have lights up on the stage, and I hit the blackout button, it turns everything off. So blackout's kind of just a way to zero everything out. It does also have a master switch. The master switch controls everything. We usually just keep it up. There's really not a reason to turn them. I mean, when you're programming things, you might need to, but and occasionally for certain events, we might need to, but the master switch is usually left up. So 48, channel 48 is house lights. I've got it organized by rows of lights. So this 1 through 6 refer to the lights that are underneath the proscenium or the curtain. You really you're hardly ever going to need to use those. But if for some reason you need light all the way across the stage, that's the first part of the stage. The second row of lights is what's called the second electric, and it's the next bank of lights underneath. So you can see how it's starting to light up farther back. The next 3 are going to correspond to the lights up on the stage, the side lights. You really don't need to turn those on unless you're doing some type of dance recital or some real specific thing. There's not really a need to turn them on. Most events that you're doing, you're not going to need to use these. These are what we call the front lights. These are the lights that are up above here, and they're going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of like illuminating the front of the stage. So I've labeled them front lights. It's 21 through 24, and you just turn all of them on at full. There's one that's not labeled, it's 26, and that turns on that light down there. And now you've got a front wash of light that covers basically the whole front of the stage. It's set up that way as what I call, it's what's called a house plot, where it's basically just like the lights are just set up that way so that when we need light, it's there. There's a second row of lights that I leave set up back here, but I keep them a rose colored. So let's say you wanted it to be a little bit more, a warmer look. You wanted it to be a softer experience in terms of the audience. You can use those. If you don't really care, I recommend just using the first bank. But then a combination of both gives you even more light to work with. So I've got them labeled. It's front lights, and then I'll add this one too so you can see it. It had a piece of tape, but it got taken off. And that's usually pretty much all you're going to need in terms of like doing any like average event. If it's anything beyond that, then we will probably have had a conversation about what you wanted in terms of color and different things.